What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Mortgage Mindset. I'm your host, Trevor Otsuka. I am a licensed mortgage advisor with Barrett Financial Group, and I lend on commercial, residential, private money, fix and flip. Today, we're rocking a solo show. We're filming this on Sunday, March 23rd, 2025. So when you guys hear this, it'll be Monday. And let's dive in here. We're going to look at rates to close out the week. So at market close on Friday, you'll have a 30-year fixed for conventional was at 6.72%. 15-year fixed was at 6.13%. 30-year jumbo at 6.90. 30-year FHA is at 6.15, and then 30-year VA is at 6.17, respectively. For econ data for last week, we had retail sales that came out on Monday, March 17th. Then on Wednesday was probably the biggest day of the week with the Fed interest rate decision. They did not change rates. So they're keeping it flat. They did not do a cut. They didn't do an increase. So we're just staying stable. I have a feeling that they're just waiting to see what's going to happen with more light coming to light about, Trump's econ policies and tariffs and all that stuff. So this is pretty much what I've been talking about for the last few weeks. They had an FOMC economic projections for their rates. It's called, a dot plot. Let's see if I can find an image and I'll throw it in here for you guys for YouTube so you can see that. But it's basically where every chair member of the Federal Reserve or the FOMC, they're going to make a prediction of where interest rates are going to land over the course of the next 3 years. So it's pretty telling because it gives us information to their perspective on how they feel the strength of the economy is going to be or where interest rates are actually going to move, which is an indicator of where they really perceive inflation is going to go. So I'll see if I can get that and I'll post it here for you guys. They had a Fed press conference that was immediately after that. And then you had jobless claims on Thursday. Then for next week, ISM manufacturing PMI for March is going to come out on April 1st. And then on Thursday and Friday, pretty big. So Thursday, you'll have S&P Global Services PMI for the month of March, and then ISM non-manufacturing PMI for the month of March as well. And then the day after that, on Friday, April 4th, you'll have non-farm payroll jobs report that's going to come out along with the unemployment rate for month over month. So pretty big impact on the market on Friday, depending on how that data is going to come out. So we're going to jump over to our news article headline for the week. I got this off of Housing Wire. I don't know if a lot of you even knew that this was happening, but there is some proposal in the state of Florida to potentially ban property taxes. So here's the article. It says, banning property taxes in Florida gains traction among lawmakers. A new report in the Wall Street Journal details new buy-in from lawmakers. So let's dive in here. The first point that we're going to talk about is eliminating property taxes in Florida could significantly impact housing affordability, especially for first-time homebuyers, retirees, and individuals on fixed incomes. Property taxes often influence buying decisions and monthly budgeting, so removing them could stimulate higher demand for housing, potentially increasing property values further. Point number 2 here says risks and consequences of removing property taxes. While removing property taxes is appealing on the surface, the loss of revenue could dramatically affect funding for schools, infrastructure, and local services. With Florida potentially leaning more heavily on sales taxes, residents may see increased living costs elsewhere, offsetting some savings. I find that kind of interesting. We'll talk about that in a second. Point number 3 here, nationwide implications and market trends. This proposal echoes historical movements such as California's Proposition 13, which capped property taxes. Similar discussions are taking place in other states like Wyoming, Kansas, and Montana. This reflects a growing nationwide trend of property tax reform in response to rapid home appreciation and demographic changes. So I find this kind of interesting that you're talking about, property taxes. I think personally that we just get taxed so damn much. I mean, you get taxed on the money you make, the money you spend. You get taxed at the pump for your gas. There's even a death tax. If you don't have your estate properly set up with trusts and all these things and how you're going to pass your assets on to your beneficiaries, which may be your children or your spouse, you could get taxed up to 60% of your net worth upon death, where they're just going to come in and they're just going to take the shit, which to me is absolutely absurd. And then we get taxed on our properties. So if you don't pay your taxes, what happens? They come in, they're going to take your home from you, right? You're going to end up in jail. They're going to take your home from you. So I am all about having less taxation, especially with, just my opinion. I'm looking at all the stuff that Doge is coming out with all of these things that our tax money has been allocated to. And I mean, dude, I get taxed a lot of money. And it pisses me off that I have so much money going to taxes at the end of the year that could have been used to invest more into my business, or could have been used for my family, for my son, right? Or even for myself. And yeah, dude, so it's kind of infuriating when I see these things. And, just to be completely honest with you guys, it pisses me off. So I am all about getting rid of taxes in some capacity. I think if it just needs to be done the right way, right? Like if we could get rid of property taxes, it would have an immediate impact on home affordability, because I would not have to include annual taxes in your monthly payment liability. And some of these, I'll give you an example. So in Las Vegas, let's say that you bought a brand new build and it was from D.R. Horton or Lennar or any of the builders that are out here. Well, we are going to cast the taxes based on the completed after repair value of the build. So the total sales price of the property, let's call it $500,000. You're going to buy a $500,000 house. Well, you're not just going to assume the existing property taxes that the builder paid on the property when it was vacant and there was just a piece of land, right? And it didn't have any value because there was nothing that was built on it. No, we're going to cast the taxes at about 1% of the total sales price. And that's going to be your annual tax amount. Okay. So in this case, that'd be $5,000 of taxes for the year. And to give you the math on that, I'll pull up a calculator here. So 5,000 divided by 12, that's $416.66 per month that I'm including in the housing expense just for property taxes. So if I had no property taxes that I needed to include, it would dramatically increase your home buying capability, right? So if you're a lower to mid-income person and maybe you're single, maybe you don't have a spouse with a secondary income to help you in acquiring a property. Maybe you're a single mom and your spouse passed away unexpectedly. And now you have the kids by yourself and you're trying to raise the kids and you can't afford to purchase a home by yourself. If I had no tax liability on the property, it's highly likely that I could help you get into a home that you could raise your kids in. So that's just my 2 cents. It's my opinion. I think that if we could get rid of property taxes, I think it would have a huge impact. And then as far as getting all of this money from other places, honestly, I think that if the government was just more responsible with the money that they were spending instead of putting it in their own pockets, then yes, I think that we could absolutely get the money for roads and infrastructure and our city and all that from all these other places. That's just my opinion. I'm curious to know what you guys think. Let me know in your comments below. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of The Mortgage Mindset. I will see you guys next week. Peace.